I just kind of cast it as, oh, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less.
That as opportunity. Like we had such a responsibility to this audience to deliver something and to have the opportunity to deliver something for a passionate group of people.
Yes.
As someone who is so deeply passionate myself.
Marvel fans were left in absolute shock when the studio dropped a bombshell. Ryan Reynolds was out. This wasn't just another casting shakeup, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood. In a world where A-listers like Ryan Reynolds are untouchable, his sudden dismissal raised eyebrows everywhere. What could possibly lead to the studio cutting ties with one of their biggest stars? Turns out, fresh evidence, better known as receipts, surfaced, and the source? None other than filmmaker Justin Baldoni. He's been tangled in a messy feud with Ryan's wife, Blake Lively. And now, people were asking, did that feud just cost Ryan his Marvel empire? For months, there had been murmurs of behind-the-scenes friction between Ryan and Marvel executives. But those whispers turned into deafening speculation after a major fiasco involving a high-profile film adaptation, co-written and directed by Baldoni himself. At first, the drama seemed like a clash between Justin and Blake. Creative differences, power struggles, the usual Hollywood chaos. But when Marvel made their stunning announcement, it changed everything. Suddenly, Ryan wasn't just a bystander. His role in the behind-the-scenes turmoil might have been bigger than anyone realized, big enough to get him booted from the billion-dollar franchise. To truly grasp how this Hollywood earthquake began, we need to rewind. Justin Baldoni had built his career on emotionally gripping films that resonated with audiences everywhere. So when he took on the challenge of adapting a beloved novel, fans were eager to see his take. But what started as an exciting project soon spiraled into a Hollywood nightmare, one that would leave Ryan Reynolds caught in the crossfire. Blake Lively, beloved for her charm, grace, and effortless Hollywood elegance, was set to star in what seemed like the perfect project. With Justin Baldoni at the helm, known for his emotionally rich storytelling, the pairing looked like a dream come true. The promotional clips painted a picture of harmony, excitement, and creative synergy. But behind the scenes, it was anything but. From the very beginning, tension simmered. Whispers spread that Blake wasn't thrilled with Justin's overwhelming presence in the project. He wasn't just directing, he was also shaping the script and stepping into a major role himself. That kind of control is rare, and according to insiders, it didn't sit well with Blake. Hollywood is no stranger to creative clashes, but this one, it spiraled fast. Rumors exploded that Blake felt sidelined, convinced Justin was positioning himself as the true star while she played second fiddle. At first, it seemed like another case of on-set friction that would eventually fizzle out. Then came the bombshell. Blake didn't just clash with Justin, she accused him of sabotaging her. Allegedly, leaks started trickling into the press, painting her as difficult, temperamental, even demanding. And she had a theory. Justin was the one pulling the strings behind those stories. At first, the industry sided with Blake. After all, Hollywood has a long, ugly history of male directors shaping negative narratives about their female leads. Soon, Justin was painted as an overbearing force, accused of dimming Blake's star so his own could shine brighter. The backlash hit hard. But then, plot twist. Just when it seemed like Justin's reputation was crumbling, his team dropped something explosive, text messages. And with those revelations, the entire narrative flipped on its head. The leaked messages shattered Blake's carefully crafted narrative. Instead of a sidelined actress battling an overbearing director, the texts revealed something very different. She wasn't just pushing back, she was making demands of her own. And she wasn't alone. In these messages, Blake openly referenced her powerful Hollywood connections, including her husband, Ryan Reynolds. She didn't just mention them, she called them dragons. A not-so-subtle warning about the kind of industry muscle she could flex if things didn't go her way. The logs painted a starkly different picture, one where Blake wasn't a victim of control, but an active force behind the scenes. She pushed for script changes, marketing shifts, even narrative control over how the film would be perceived by the public. Suddenly, her claims of being overshadowed seemed murkier. Was she being stifled, or was she the one pulling the strings? At first, Ryan's involvement was pure speculation. Had Blake been name-dropping him without his consent, or was he quietly orchestrating moves from the shadows? For a while, the question lingered, especially since Ryan kept dead silent on the drama. But then, more receipts dropped. Newly surfaced messages directly tied Ryan to the scheme. No longer just a bystander, he appeared to be an active co-strategist. The texts referenced phone calls with major industry figures, leaked details designed to discredit Justin, and calculated efforts to reframe Blake as a misunderstood heroine, all while Ryan maintained his signature, charming public persona. For fans, the contrast was jarring. The Hollywood funny man, the king of self-deprecating humor, secretly maneuvering behind the scenes to control the story? The revelations didn't just shake up the controversy, they flipped the entire narrative on its head. For a while, the storm seemed centered on the feud between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, with Ryan Reynolds playing little more than a supporting role in the chaos. But then, everything changed. Justin dropped a bombshell. He wasn't just sitting on speculation. He had receipts, time-stamped, irrefutable digital proof that shattered any notion this was just gossip or media spin. And according to early reports, these receipts directly implicated Ryan. The details were damning. The records allegedly confirmed Ryan's knowledge of specific smear tactics. Tactics that weren't just about defending Blake, but about rewriting the entire story. The plan: shift the spotlight onto Blake's grievances while framing Justin as dismissive, unsympathetic, and even manipulative. Suddenly, this wasn't just a messy Hollywood spat, it was a full-scale PR war, and Ryan wasn't just a spectator. He was in the trenches. As soon as word leaked that Justin was preparing to go public with this evidence, Marvel Studios went into full-blown panic mode. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings were called. Ryan wasn't just any actor. He was a cornerstone of Marvel's future. But if he had been caught actively scheming behind the scenes, engaging in tactics that undermined a respected filmmaker, it wasn't just bad optics. It was an outright crisis. Hollywood has seen its fair share of scandals, but this was different. Marvel depends on its stars to be bankable, reliable, and free from controversy, especially those leading billion-dollar franchises. Ryan's entire persona was built on his effortless charm, his comedic wit, his likability. But could Marvel afford to stand by him if the evidence proved he had crossed the line? Then came the moment that changed everything. Marvel's top executives gathered, the newly released receipts in front of them. What they saw would force them to make a decision that could shake the entire franchise to its core. Though the explosive receipts weren't immediately made public, insiders claimed they left no room for doubt. The evidence directly linked Ryan Reynolds to the behind-the-scenes power plays, showing that he had actively worked alongside Blake to control the press, sway public perception, and discredit Justin Baldoni. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. Whispers suggested that these messages revealed something bigger. That Ryan and Blake had a pattern of using their industry influence for both personal and professional gain. This wasn't just about a single film feud anymore. It hinted at a deeper, long-standing strategy of pressure tactics. And when Marvel got a closer look, that was the breaking point. In a move that no one saw coming, Marvel made a definitive call. Ryan Reynolds was out. Just like that, the studio severed ties with one of its most bankable stars. The official statement was cold, clinical, and shockingly blunt. It referenced a recent review of newly disclosed information and concluded that Ryan's continued involvement with Marvel was no longer tenable. Fans were floored. Marvel never makes statements like this. Normally, their PR game is airtight, light, optimistic, filled with corporate niceties. But this was different. The directness of the language signaled just how serious the situation had become. social media exploded. Disbelief, anger, endless questions. How did Ryan Reynolds, the golden boy of superhero comedy, go from Marvel's darling to an industry exile? As the storm raged online, Justin didn't gloat. No smug interviews, no thinly veiled jabs at Ryan or Blake. Instead, he kept it professional. He released even more receipts, offering a detailed breakdown of events. His message was clear. He wasn't here to destroy reputations. He just wanted to set the record straight and defend his integrity. But by then, the damage was done. Ryan was out. Blake's reputation was under fire. And the Hollywood power dynamic? Justin didn't hold back. He made it crystal clear. The messages weren't just embarrassing. They proved that Ryan and Blake had been actively working to undermine him as a director and content creator. And to Justin, that was the real issue. Disagreements happen all the time in Hollywood, but covert smear campaigns? That's where the line had been crossed. But while Justin stood firm, the focus on Blake Lively only intensified. The biggest shock? Her own attorney abruptly severed ties, citing irreconcilable differences with her version of events. That move sent the rumor mill into overdrive. Had Blake pushed Ryan to intervene? Or were they equally involved in the scheme from the very beginning? And beyond that, was their seemingly perfect marriage as airtight as they wanted the world to believe? Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a Hollywood feud, it was about control. The receipts didn't just suggest Blake wanted more creative input, they revealed a carefully orchestrated effort to paint Justin as incompetent and uncooperative. But the raw, unedited text logs told a very different story. Justin hadn't been difficult. He'd been targeted. And what about Ryan? The man known for his quick wit, sharp comebacks, and playful public persona? Silence. For the first time, Ryan Reynolds, Hollywood's king of turning controversy into a joke, said nothing. No damage control, no cheeky social media posts, no charming spin on the situation. Instead, he stuck to generic, pre-scheduled content that completely ignored the Marvel scandal. And fans noticed. This was uncharted territory. In the past, Ryan had always tackled controversies head-on, often with a light-hearted jab that kept the public on his side. But now, his silence was deafening. Diffusing tactics were no longer an option. This wasn't just a PR blip. It was a full-blown Hollywood fallout. Sources close to him claimed he was in damage control mode, scrambling to salvage a public image that had taken a direct hit. But the bigger shockwave? Marvel's decision wasn't just about Ryan, it was a warning to the entire industry. Hollywood studios constantly monitor how their rivals handle high-stakes scandals. And for Marvel to cut ties with one of their biggest stars? That meant the evidence against him wasn't just damaging. It was too damning to ignore. The message was clear. Not even A-list status can protect you when the allegations threaten the integrity of a billion-dollar franchise. As the dust settled, Hollywood split into two camps. Some believed Marvel had overreacted. Couldn't this have been fixed? A carefully worded apology? A PR-crafted redemption arc? After all, Ryan was a guaranteed box office goldmine. Others, however, saw Marvel's move as a long overdue reckoning. If Ryan Reynolds really had conspired to twist the narrative against a respected director, then that wasn't just a personal dispute. It was a serious ethical breach. And for years, Hollywood had let powerful industry couples pull strings behind the scenes without consequence. But now, Marvel, the biggest powerhouse in pop culture, had drawn a line. If they were willing to hold one of their biggest stars accountable, could this set a precedent for broader industry change? For Justin, the moment wasn't about revenge. It was vindication. He made it clear. His goal was never about destroying careers, but exposing the secretive, backdoor maneuvering that had threatened his creative vision. And whether Hollywood liked it or not, the truth was now out in the open. For some, Marvel's firing of Ryan Reynolds was a tragic fallout. But for others, it was a necessary reckoning. Behind the glitz of Hollywood, production assistants, camera operators, and crew members had long witnessed the behind-the-scenes tension. Some had quietly noted how minor conflicts mysteriously ballooned into full-blown grievances, only to resurface as leaks in the tabloids days later. Now, with the receipts laid bare, many insiders felt validated. This wasn't just a messy creative dispute, this was calculated. And as the fallout grew, Blake Lively disappeared. Once a fixture on social media, sharing glimpses of her perfect family life, she suddenly went radio silent. No playful posts, no public appearances, nothing. The abrupt shift only fueled speculation. Was she and Ryan scrambling behind the scenes to contain the damage? Those close to her painted two very different pictures. Some said she was devastated by Marvel's decision, taking it as a deeply personal betrayal. But others? They claimed she wasn't backing down, insisting that Justin had twisted the narrative to his advantage. But by now, her defense was crumbling. With so much concrete evidence in circulation, it was no longer just a battle of words. Fans who had once fiercely defended Blake suddenly switched sides. The once loyal supporters, convinced she had been unfairly targeted, now saw the receipts as a wake-up call. Maybe this wasn't the story they had been led to believe. Maybe the real truth was far more complicated. Meanwhile, the media frenzy only intensified. Every news outlet, every entertainment show, every social media thread, everyone was dissecting every angle. Hollywood was split. Could Ryan Reynolds bounce back, or had his once untouchable comedic brand taken a hit too big to repair? Talk shows buzzed with debate. Some believed he could craft the ultimate comeback story, a redemption arc Hollywood loves to sell. Others weren't so sure. The split with Marvel, famous for its ironclad loyalty to leading actors, wasn't just a scandal. It was a seismic rupture in the industry. And with the controversy still dominating headlines, the idea of Ryan rebounding anytime soon seemed like a long shot. Behind closed doors, the real panic was happening. Studios that had once banked on Ryan's blockbuster appeal were suddenly reevaluating everything. Productions that had been tailored to his name, lined up for release, or in the early stages of development now faced a chilling dilemma. Was keeping Ryan on board worth the risk? The industry had seen this before. A-list stars who had once seemed unstoppable, only to fall from grace overnight. And while Hollywood thrives on reinvention, a period of careful distancing now seemed inevitable. Seasoned industry insiders saw clear parallels to past scandals, but with one key difference. Ryan's comedic persona had always given him a golden shield. His quick wit, his self-deprecating humor, his effortless charm, it made him feel relatable. The public had never seen malice in his jokes, only lighthearted fun. But now, that perception was cracking. And in an industry where image is everything, Ryan was facing something far more dangerous than bad press: uncertainty. Ryan Reynolds had built an empire on his quick wit and everyman charm. But now, fans were forced to question it all. The leaked messages, what critics now openly called a smear campaign, painted a different picture. The lighthearted, joke-cracking star was suddenly linked to strategic behind-the-scenes power plays, and the contrast was jarring. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni stayed focused. While the Hollywood circus raged on, he made one thing clear: this was never about him. He refused to play the victim or turn the scandal into his own PR moment. Instead, he kept the spotlight on what mattered most: the film itself. He reminded audiences that beneath all the controversy, his project was still about raw emotion, universal themes, and storytelling that resonated. And those who had worked closely with him, they noticed. Crew members stood by him, respecting how he never tried to rewrite the narrative. He just let the evidence speak for itself. And with Marvel's drastic decision to cut ties with Ryan, one thing was clear: the receipts had spoken volumes. But now an even bigger question loomed: who would replace Ryan? Recasting an actor so deeply tied to a franchise is always risky. Marvel had heavily invested in him, with long-term plans rumored to stretch years into the future. Scrapping or rewriting those projects would mean massive financial losses. And fans? they never take recasts lightly. Yet, continuing with Ryan was impossible. Marvel's swift, no-nonsense termination sent a message louder than any PR spin ever could. When trust with a lead actor crumbles this severely, forcing ahead can create bigger, more catastrophic problems down the line. Ironically, as the dust settled, Justin's film kept moving forward. The adaptation that had started this entire firestorm was still progressing, just under a cloud of press and speculation that no one could ignore. As the scandal unraveled, one unexpected side effect emerged. Curiosity about the film itself skyrocketed. Some skeptics even suggested that, ironically, the controversy could boost box office numbers. But for Justin Baldoni, this was never about publicity. He remained steadfast in his vision. While others might have seized the moment to spin the film's marketing around Ryan's downfall and Marvel's shocking decision, Justin refused. He made it clear, the film would stand on its own merit, not as a side note to an industry scandal. And in an era where Hollywood thrives on sensationalism, his restraint spoke volumes. But the bigger question, what happens next for Ryan Reynolds? Will he attempt a public apology, claiming the leaked messages were taken out of context? Will he insist his involvement was blown out of proportion? Could he find a way to patch things up with Marvel? Maybe even craft a redemption arc? Or was this the end of the road? Marvel's decision wasn't just unprecedented, it was final. The studio had always preferred to handle disputes behind closed doors, smoothing over tensions before they ever reached the public. But this time, they cut ties with no hesitation. Whatever they saw in those receipts had cemented their choice. Keeping Ryan on was impossible. And as for Justin, he let the truth speak for itself. No victory laps, no smug jabs, no reveling in Ryan's career-altering fallout. Instead, he maintained his quiet resolve, proving that, at the end of the day, Hollywood thrives on power struggles. But real storytelling still matters. Whether he meant for it or not, Justin Baldoni's decision to lay everything bare set a precedent. He proved that when faced with carefully curated narratives, the full truth can be the most powerful weapon. And if there's one undeniable lesson from this entire spectacle, it's this. Not even the most beloved, humor-filled public persona is invincible when hard evidence enters the chat. Ryan Reynolds once seemed untouchable. His comedic charm wasn't just a fan magnet. It bridged Hollywood executives, audiences, and brands alike. But beneath the sarcasm and quick wit, there were layers. And as Marvel's once loyal golden boy went from beloved blockbuster star to publicly ousted actor, the industry was forced to take a hard look at its beliefs about power, influence, and the smoke and mirrors game of stardom. So, where does that leave us? For now, the final page of this chapter closes with Ryan's abrupt departure from a studio that had once bet big on him. But the story isn't over. New narratives will take shape. Whispers of legal action, hush-hush settlements, or even a carefully crafted redemption arc designed to reframe the entire disaster. But one fact remains. In an era of unfiltered documentation, texts, emails, screenshots, no one is immune. Carefully controlled PR spins can crumble in an instant when receipts hit the table. And when a studio as massive as Marvel decides that what's behind the curtain is too damning to ignore, that door doesn't just close, it slams shut. What do you think? Is there a comeback waiting for Ryan Reynolds? Or is this the Hollywood fall no one recovers from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more deep dives into the biggest industry shakeups. And as always, stay tuned, because the next bombshell, it's never far away. See you on the next one.